It's a good tuna, but I think I paid too much.
I always wear my mask and wash my hands after going home.
I am the king of the rink.
Welcome to the Japan Wut Podcast, episode 228. And I am your host, Matthew P.M. Bigelow.com. And I'm coming at you from the Aizumicho Studios in Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. The armpit of Asia. Coverage. Japan Society 5.0. AI market trends, the supply chain wars, rising conflict in the Indo-Pacific, immigration, migration, depopulation, and more. We thank you for coming along the adventure that is today's show. It's been about a month since I've done a podcast. The reason is I had another child. I'm up to 3 now in the past 5 years. And I've also been assigned work. I work for an agency. And when I'm not working, they put me on retention. And then I was on retention for a very long time. And eventually they said, we're sending you into the department store in a very posh neighborhood of Tokyo. And I was like, what, really? Like, yeah, they need somebody there because there's a lot of foreign guests purchasing tax-free things. And the staff there doesn't always have the English ability to handle the requests. So you're going to be a very well-paid cashier. Okay. I was kind of surprised. It's I'm usually in corporate offices. In the past, I've done page design and editing for a leading daily newspaper in Japan. And then before that, I was 5 years at a telecommunications company doing curriculum development for AI, IoT, and et cetera, learning and stuff like that for their corporate executives. So it's like you go from that type of internal desk work to being on your feet all day. And that is a bit of like a mental setback. I'm well paid. I'm not making a cashier's wage. I've been told not to disclose. So that's going to be a secret. And I'm not mentioning any names. And at first I was like, what? I'm going to be a cashier? Like, we'll get into where cashiers are going on today's podcast. And it turns out they do need somebody there. So it's actually pretty good. There's always trade-offs. That's the way I look at things now. Being on your feet all day means you kind of exercise more than being at a desk. And working at with working class people is far more preferable to office people doing email jobs. So I don't have a whole bunch of very meddling, bored middle managers who don't know anything about the job coming around telling you how to do it, and they tell you all differently. That's kind of been my experience working in offices sometimes, and you're kind of placed there for a few months or a few years, and there's just this constant stream of middle management faces coming your way who are just bored because really they don't do anything. Sorry. And then so you have like this prestige or this kind of esteem. Oh, it's a leading company, and I'm at a desk, and I take an elevator up to the 22nd floor. There's a view, and I am an important person because of these things. When really you're just kind of sending an email or confirming something or going to a meeting to look at some sort of project that you have very little to do with. And then that's also like why so fewer jobs are opening up in offices now. They're still there, but not like they used to be. I think the world's catching on that you can use ChatGPT and other AI services to replace a lot of labor these days that go on in offices. It's just an endless wait for people to get back from doing something that's not very important, so you can ask them about the not very important thing that you have to ask about so that you can confirm it and then send that up the chain to the next person who's waiting for the not so important thing to confirm that it's going on. So there's like this esteem, but at the same time, it's kind of blasé. So there's always trade-offs, but it is kind of nice to be like, oh, I'm this important person. I have a view. Now I don't have a view, but working with working class people is far more preferable. But yeah, the spend that's going on in the tourism industry right now in Japan is mind-boggling. As an economics report, I can say this. I see a lot of passports throughout the day from all over the world. And you know who's having the most fun? The Chinese, by far. big spenders, happy spenders, much different than the Chinese tourists from 10 years ago that were arriving on bus tours, hustling and bustling and niggling and pushing you and getting in your way and being rude and loud and noisy and spitting food everywhere and shitting on the floors. Now they're nice. Now they're polite. Now their English is very good. Now they don't come in group tours so much. Now they're all on their own in little family units or going on travel trips with their friends or even by themselves. They're having the most fun of anybody in the whole world is the Chinese. And everybody's saying the Chinese economy is collapsing. They have no idea what they're doing. Boop. Wrong. Big wrong. Because these people, they are happy. They're spending. They're cultured. I'm very, very impressed with what how much the Chinese tourist attitude has changed from within over the past 10 years. In addition, this is another thing that I'll say. I see a lot of people from all over the world, and by far the most unpredictable are the Asians. By far. You can have a Canadian Asian person come up to you with a passport, and they'll be like, "Here's my passport." They'll speak in a very Asian-y English accent. And then the next person comes up, and they're like, "Yo, dude, here's my passport." And it's some Chinese guy who loves hip-hop music, and he talks like a hip-hop guy. Yo, sup? It's like, okay. Whereas this, 50-year-old Chinese person of ethnic heritage from Canada still is more like a traditional Chinese person than some of the new Chinese people coming in from China now. It's really interesting. And because I'm in Japan and I'm like a white dude on the other side of a till, now we also have Japanese Americans coming to Japan to do shopping. So they don't speak any Japanese at all, but they have a Japanese name. And I have like an English name, and I'm like the white dude on the other side of the counter. Like these roles are flipping, and the times are changing as they are. So that's my economics report. Boots on the ground. And anything else? Any other striking things? Not so much, to be honest with you. But that's the update from the ground. So that's that. So that's the reason why I haven't been podcasting. Before I had all the time in the world, and I was kind of getting paid to do it. But we're going to move on from that, and we're going to take a look at the supply chain war. Die for the war. Everybody must die for the good, Die for the war. Die for the war. Yeah. Sup, bro? I'm from China. Yeah. I'm from Canada. How are you today? But those two people, they will never meet. They will never understand the situation. They are atomized in this context. It's been cataloged and analyzed by my brain through repetition and pattern recognition. PR. The most hateful words you can say these days is pattern recognition. Oh, what does that mean? It means I'm noticing, and I've noticed when people get upset by the word pattern recognition, that in itself is a pattern, is it not? All right, well, let's take a look at the supply chain war. So from the Japan Wut podcast here is about Japan, but it's also, I want people in Japan who listen to the podcast know about certain trends that are going on outside of Japan that affect Japan. I don't want to be like 10 things in Japan you must try, or the Japan Culture podcast with a bunch of, funny instruments in the back. It's more like what's happening right now. And like I said, with the things that regarding the times that are changing, to say it's terribly, we have things that exist externally and internally that affect each other. So this is about the supply chain war, and I found this, and I've thought about this a lot, and I've never seen it compiled in such a fanciful manner. And right now, semiconductors and rare earth metals is kind of the focus of today's supply chain war, more or less, and some peripheral items regarding that as well. But this one is called, we'll just call it semiconductor supply chain. The deeper you go into the semiconductor supply chain, the less believable it becomes. So we all use semiconductors, but the fractured nature of the supply chain and how reliant we are on single companies all over the world for our supply chains, delivering the chips to where they need to go most, it could collapse very easily. And on the flip side, China is trying to make domestic chips all domestically. So an entire chip supply that's based on sheer domestic capacity. Anyways, TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, a company on a small island, Formosa, pretty big island actually, produces over 90% of the world's most advanced chips. This company, TSMC, relies on Dutch company ASML for EUV lithography machines. Those are like the printers. ASML depends on German company Carl Zeiss, the only firm in the world capable of making mirrors precise enough for ASML's requirements. The light source for ASML's EUV machines is produced by a single company in San Diego. The photoresists used to print transistor patterns are produced by Japanese firms, like JSR and Tokyo-Oka Kogyo. The ultra-pure quartz needed to make silicon wafers comes entirely from a single mine in Spruce Pine, North Carolina, North Kakalaki. The copper and rare earth materials inside chips are mined and refined across Chile, the Congo, and China. The specialized gases used in chip making, like neon and fluorine, largely come from Ukraine and Japan. The design blueprints for these chips often come from American companies like NVIDIA, AMD, and Apple, which rely on software tools from U.S. firms like Synopsys and Cadence. Remove any single piece, and the whole system collapses. So that's how delicate our entire modern lifestyle is. And of course, these things kind of just happen on their own. Nobody pre-planned this supply chain route. It was more or less, we needed chips for a few things at first, and then we needed it for more. Where can we get it? We get it from here, and it develops, and then you kind of have this Frankenstein from the future kind of being unspooled from a thread and knitted across the world and then tied with a single bow on top. And then we say, here is your modern economy. Don't screw it up. And what's happening? It could be getting screwed up. That's what's happening. Weird Corner. So regarding that, and of course, China wants to become number one. We all know that to be true. They want to become number one. They're expanding like crazy. Like I said, the shopping is wild, and the people are much more. China's always been a cultured place, but the people, we've always kind of, because of their insane policies over the past 100 years. Leo, I'm trying to podcast here. They've had some setbacks, shall we say? A lot of broken eggs and few omelets, but now I guess we have omelets. So with the rare earth metals, they're everywhere, and Japan has recently found and discovered massive deposits off of some of its remote islands. They're very hard to mine, but they're there in the sludge of the ocean. But China, for some reason, was gifted by the world the ability to process most of the rare earth metals for consumption, to make it into what we do with our lives and the economy. But now China wants to become number one, like I said, so they are screwing around with the situation a little bit. And of course, this is going on with Donald Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff wars and trying to push people around and kind of maintain itself as a global hegemon. But there's rivals. And once the king gorilla gets a little gray, the other gorillas start to pound their chests. On October 9th, 2025, China's Ministry of Commerce issued 6 notices dramatically expanding export controls on rare earth elements, magnets, lithium batteries, artificial graphite anode materials, super hard materials like synthetic diamonds, and related technologies. These measures, effective immediately or by December 1st, 2025, require export licenses for items containing even trace amounts of controlled materials. It's a 0.1% threshold in some cases, so basically everything, and extend extraterritorially to foreign-produced goods using Chinese inputs or tech. Citing national security, Beijing prohibits shipments to foreign military users and subjects AI semiconductors, regular semiconductors, and other AI applications to a case-by-case scrutiny, covering 90% of global rare earth processing capacity. I've heard it's even higher than 90% by some accounts. This escalation, building on an April 2025 restriction, weaponizes China's dominance in critical materials essential for electronics, EVs, defense, and renewables. For Japan, a key importer of Chinese rare earths used in semiconductors, magnets, and batteries, the impacts are profound. Supply chains face immediate disruptions. Japanese firms like Toyota and Sony rely on these inputs for auto parts, consumer gadgets, and precision manufacturing, risking shortages and production halts akin to the 2010 embargo. Extraterritorial rules could ensnare Japan-based facilities employing Chinese tech, complicating compliance and raising costs. Economically, Japan, where China absorbs 17.6% of exports, faces higher input prices, inflating manufacturing costs by 5 to 10% in affected sectors per industry estimates. This exacerbates yen weakness and slows GDP growth, projected at 0.8% for 2026 amid trade frictions. Yet it accelerates Japan's China Plus One diversifications. Subsidies under the Economic Security Promotion Act bolster reshoring to Vietnam, India, and alliances like the U.S.-Japan Semiconductor Pact. Long-term, this fosters resilience, long-term, right, but demands like trillions of investments, and so where does that come from? So overall, this article written by Grok and edited by me, that heightens the bilateral tensions, and it forces Tokyo to rethink its long-term investments with China. But as I mentioned, if China has basically control over the rare earth mineral, however they put it into stuff, they do it, then how do you make up for that? It's not like somebody's like, we're not going to sell you our dirt, and you're like, well, we have dirt over here. So there's rare earth minerals in the dirt, but how do you extract them and process them and put them into stuff? Oh, you don't have that? So what do? You look at the clouds, you stick a big old squishy bag of hope up your bum and pray to God? I don't know. So we have these tensions in the supply chain war. And of course, the supply chain war is between the G7 and BRICS, more or less. And BRICS wants to get away from the SDGs and the DEIs and the UN and kind of just do things their own way. And there's always trade-offs. So with the G7 and things like that, they will say, if you want investment, you need to have migration. If you don't accept 3% of your population to be totally migrants in the next 5 years, we will not invest in you. And then China comes in and says, here's a bunch of free telecommunications equipment. Just give us your cocoa beans. And they say, okay. But now that country has a giant backdoor spy grid, basically a lace, a spy lace integrated within the infrastructure of its society, and try getting it out. Once you build a road, can you take it out? Once you have 50,000 5G towers spread throughout your city, can you just go and pick them out? Like, who's going to do it, right? Once it's there, it's kind of hard to take out. Like a COVID vaccine. So there's that. So there's these trade-offs, and some countries are going for one and some countries are going for the other. And a lot of people are kind of being pushed and pried between these two. And Japan is in this position where it's on the edge of empire, which is always a difficult position to be in. It's on the edge of empire because it's a G7 country pushed right up against China and Russia and North Korea, three very strong BRICS countries. It's historically aligned with Asia, but it's ideologically aligned with the G7. So, but to do trade with everybody, Japan needs to be in China just like everybody else. But in order to proceed with its G7 vision of a green-based economy, it has to get away from China. But how do you get away from something that you're physically right next to? It's one, if you're on the edge of empire, like I consider Gaza on the edge of empire. it's easy for the whole thing to get ripped apart at the seams. So Japan has a very difficult balancing act to do here. It's been able to do it for a long time, but how long is the tightrope walk? Is it forever? Is it endless? We don't know. And so other countries are dealing with this in a different way. So I found this. This comes to us from Reuters, which I hate. This one is called Dutch Government in Talks with China Over Nexperia Export Controls. So the Dutch government recently, I think, just took over a Chinese chip manufacturer. And that's what they did. And now they're using it as a bargaining chip for these controls. October 17th. We're recording this on October 20th. It's the last Japan Wut podcast, by the way. The Netherlands is in talks with China over export controls imposed on the Chinese-owned chip maker Nexperia, which has become tangled up in the trade frictions between U.S. and China. The Dutch government stepped in on September 30th to take control of Nexperia, which makes chips for car makers and for consumer electronics, citing worries about the possible transfer of technology to Nexperia's Chinese parent company, Wingtech. Where did it go? The Chinese Commerce Ministry then issued an export control notice on October 4th prohibiting Nexperia China and its subcontractors from exporting specific finished components and subassemblies manufactured in China. Major automakers have said the chip disruption stemming from the dispute between China and the Dutch government could quickly impact production, as Nexperia's chips are needed for the production of parts and vehicles. So you can't just take it out. That's the point here. They're trying to take it out, but you can't take it out because one person has more cards than the other. One person has a bigger bag of money. One person has bigger balls. And China has the bigger balls right now. So that's that. So that's one way to deal with it, but then you pivot, but then the other person might have a 7-pivot plan around your one single pivot experience. And the EU is super incompetent right now. They're fat, they're lazy, they have no new ideas. They just say, new ideas, regulate them. But then some other giant moth ship comes over to you from China. It's like, we do not believe in your regulations and we have bigger balls than you. Nope.
I am the king of the ring.
All right, I'm going to have to go and take care of my baby for a bit. All right, so then what is going on inside of China? Because it's very hard to get data on what's actually going on inside of China. And this is an article from Zero Hedge. And I know it's Japan, but we need to look outside of Japan to see how this is going to affect Japan, just like those export controls that I was talking about earlier. This one's called Most Humbling Thing I've Ever Seen. Business leaders terrified after touring Chinese factories. So they can just do whatever they want over in China as long as the government doesn't, harvest their organs. And that's most certainly the case when it comes to innovation. You can just iterate and iterate and iterate. And if you've read Kai-Fu Lee's book, China, the U.S. and the New World Order, Fight for AI, something around those lines. It's about a 10-year-old book. He was detailing very accurately China's actual plans for AI. This isn't Western interpreted plans like they just want to use AI to kill us all. They're using AI to transform the economy, and they don't care about what AI means. They just know it makes things faster, and so they're using it. There's no philosophical banter over there in China. There's just iteration at the fastest pace because the person who's first wins. So this is, I'll just read this. This is coming to us from Zero Hedge. Ford Motor Company CEO Jim Farley and other top business leaders are terrified over China's breakneck technological advancements, warning that the Asian superpower's innovations could crush American companies if they don't act fast. This is according to The Telegraph. Farley, after touring Chinese factories, was left reeling by the cutting-edge tech packed into their vehicles, including self-driving software and facial recognition systems. Their cost and the quality of their vehicles is far superior to what I see in the West. The Chinese aren't just outpacing U.S. car companies. Greg Jackson, head of British energy supplier Octopus, described a jaw-dropping visit to a dark factory, churning out mobile phones with barely a human in sight. Quote, We visited a dark factory producing some astronomical number of mobile phones, Jackson told the outlet. The process was so heavily automated that there were no workers on the manufacturing side, just a small number who were there to ensure the plant was working. You get this sense of a change where China's competitiveness has gone from being about government subsidies and low wages to a tremendous number of highly skilled, educated engineers who are innovating like mad. See, isn't that really mirroring kind of the attitude I was talking about with the Chinese people coming into the shop I'm working at now? That mirrors it exactly. So we have boots on the ground report from yours truly in the center of Tokyo, and we have some CEO of a crazy company called Octopus, a British energy supplier, whatever that means, Mr. Jackson, saying the exact same thing. Compile that in your mind and analyze it. Australian mining billionaire Andrew Forrest scrapped plans to build electric vehicle powertrains after witnessing China's dominance firsthand. Quote, "We are in a global competition with China, and it's not just EVs. And if we lose this, we do not have a future at Ford," Forrest told the Telegraph. Forrest described futuristic factories where robots rise from the floor, assembling trucks with zero human involvement. Quote, "I can take you to factories in China now where you'll basically be alongside a big conveyor belt and the machines come out of the floor and begin to assemble parts," the Titan said. "And you're walking alongside this conveyor, and after about 800 or 900 meters, a truck drives out. There are no people. Everything is robotic." The humanoid robotics market could explode into a $5 trillion industry by 2050. So, the humanoid robotics market. I'm not sure. This is where the tone of the report goes a little off. Were they talking about human robotics earlier? They were just talking about robotics. So I'm not a big believer in human robotics just yet. I think robotics are probably more tailor-made to the task at hand. I don't see humanoid robotics being this big. Venture capitalist Varnoid Coleslaw, an early OpenAI backer, predicts a robotics breakthrough akin to ChatGPT, blah, blah, blah. And it kind of goes from there. So it kind of goes off the market into a futuristic predictive modal that journalists usually do because they just follow a pattern. And if they don't, then their article doesn't get chosen by their stupid editor to get put in a stupid newspaper somewhere. So there we go. So top billionaires saying the same thing as yours truly. And we also have them just doing it. They're not philosophizing about it. They're not going, what about the jobs? And why do we even call it artificial intelligence? And assembling a robot and the robot's assembling a truck. But is it our friend? Is it intelligent enough to say hi and give me a huggy wuggy? That's what so many people in the West and the G7 do, but not over in China. They're just like, why are you talking like that? Oh, no, that's the Canadian Chinese accent now. They're like, yo, why are you talking like that? You're talking like a crazy woman. We're just going to put this AI in this machine and roll it right out of here. What about the jobs? We can screw those jobs. I get the money. That's the way they talk now. It's a different world. And if you're not involved in it, then you're getting left behind. So that's kind of, can the Dutch, who are heavily automated in their Leo, and who are heavily automated over there as well, can they out-automate the Chinese? I'm not sure. But if the Chinese become number one, then they can do to you what they want. Again, from Zero Hedge. So let's just say there's BVD, which is BYD, Build Your Dream. It's a car company, a Chinese EV car company. They have branches in Tokyo, and I've seen some of their cars around, which means Japanese people are purchasing Chinese electric vehicles in Tokyo. Didn't see that one coming 10 years ago. But China, cyber expert warns China could remotely detonate Aussie EVs in hybrid warfare campaign. Earlier this week at the Australian Financial Review Cyber Summit, this is from late September, so it's a bit old, but did you know? Cybersecurity expert Alistair McGibbon highlighted an alarming national security risk posed by millions of China-manufactured connected devices spreading across Australia. He warned that particularly internet-connected electric vehicles represent new threat vectors for hybrid warfare operations. Ticking time bombs. On Tuesday, McGibbon, former cybersecurity advisor to Liberal Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and now Chief Strategy Officer at CyberCX, warned those cars that we talk about, whether they're electric or not, are listening devices and they're surveillance devices in terms of cameras. But worse, he cautioned, take off the safety features of household batteries so that they overcharge. Take off those same safety features for electric vehicles. Just turn them off from the manufacturer so that those vehicles explode. Degrade their ability to drive at peak hour in select cities. McGibbon's comments also echo warnings in a recent note we penned, citing a book, China Total War Strategy, Next Generation Weapons of Mass Destruction. This sounds like Epic Times originally. This is, I might say later. It sounds like Epic Times, Epoch Times. This book, the Weapons of Mass Destruction book, published by the CCP Biothreats Initiative and authored by Dr. Ryan Clark and Dr. Xiao Shu Shenlin, outlines the Chinese Communist Party has been pursuing an aggressive, multifaceted total war that leverages next-generation weapons, including synthetic narcotics, into a broad arsenal of irregular warfare tools, including TikTok. Clark and the other authors described this strategy as the CCP's Assassin's Mace, an indirect hybrid warfare doctrine designed to exploit vulnerabilities and collapse the nation from within. Kind of paranoid, but I like paranoia. Hunter S. Thompson said, paranoia does not exist. There might be somebody who is actually out to get you. The results are already visible in the fentanyl epidemic and other broader terms. I'm kind of summarizing on the go here. Last month, 4 Chinese brands, BYD, Great Wall Motors, MG Motors, and Chery broke into Australia's top 10 in sales for the first time. Tens of thousands of Chinese EVs are now on Australian highways, alongside millions of other connected devices that could be weaponized in hybrid warfare. Remember when America faced the exploding Chinese scooter problem? And so what if China sells, all of these types of cars all over the world? Okay, so we have millions of ticking time bombs just driving down the streets of your metropolis. It's waiting outside your door, ready to blow up. Now, China goes in for Taiwan. Boom, land invasion. The West begins to prepare. China hits the button. Then you have 5 million cars explode in all these G7 countries, maybe even close to like infrastructure that would be used to prepare a wartime footing response, right? If you need to send all your tanks and planes and blah, blah, blah everywhere, if you blow up the cars on key channels and key infrastructural links, well, then you would hamper a response, right? So then that would mean that China would be able to gain more territory in Taiwan as the West regains its footing to prepare for an assistance, a backup invasion or a backup support for Taiwan. That could also happen in Tokyo. And my other aspect on this involves North Korea that I've been thinking about for years now, is that there's a large contingent of North Koreans living in Japan, only 30,000. But if they have access to social media and you have all these cars blow up, and that sends like a threshold response to all their social media accounts, trying to rile them up to also assist in this hampering project to prevent assistance going to Taiwan. You could also have 30,000 potentially silent actors, essentially, on the streets in China and in Tokyo, in Kyoto and other key places, furthering the disruption to prevent a response. So that's just more hybrid warfare aspects to what we are witnessing right now in the supply chain wars. So that's that. That said, I'm like, there's this, I keep getting this advertisement for like a Xiaomi watch on Amazon, and it looks so cool. And I'm like, I actually really want it, but I'm like, if I'm talking like this on the podcast, should I just be like donned in communist Chinese, party promoted goods? Should I just be like wearing like bio goods all over me, wearables as they're called, just be a total digital twin tracking agent for the CCP, so I haven't bought it. Now, with the supply chain war, it's kind of been pushing India away from America as well, and this affects Japan because of the Quad. Quad is a kind of alliance between Japan, India, Australia, and I believe America. I could be wrong on that last one, but it's trying to put a Indo-Pacific alliance to surround China and prevent China from expanding. But as we see the Japanese nation kind of weaken in many ways and age and not being able to defend itself or assert itself internationally on the stage, as India asserts itself on the stage, they find themselves being pushed away from America due to their kind of individualistic choices for the direction of their country. And then as a result, due to geography and BRICS customs, like I've been mentioning, just sell and buy, do whatever, we don't care. It's been pushing India towards China and Russia. And then that divides further into what Japan and India can do together. So there's that. Indian traders begin switching to Chinese yuan for Russian oil purchases, report. Wow. India's state oil firm has begun making payments for Russian energy in Chinese currency, the yuan, according to a report released by Reuters on Tuesday. Indian Oil Corporation recently made payments in Chinese currency for 2 to 3 cargoes of Russian oil. Now, traders, which until now had to convert payments in dirhams or dollars into yuans, since only those can be directly exchanged into rubles needed to pay the producers, are seeking to remove the costly step from the process, a trade source said. Sources also said that traders are pricing Russian oil in dollars to ensure adherence to the European Union's price cap and seeking equivalent yuan payment. Adding that payments in yuan will expand the availability of Russian oil for Indian state refinery, giving some traders would not accept other currencies. U.S. President Donald Trump recently cracked down hard on India over its energy ties to Russia. In late August, Trump signed an executive order imposing an additional 25% on India due to its purchase of Russian oil. And so it kind of goes on from there. India seems to just be dealing with it. Maybe India doesn't see the United States as a major trading partner into the future. They would maybe rather do things regionally. They kind of see the United States as a dumping ground for their excess population, get training, and then bring that training, hopefully to their perspective, back into India in the future, draining that training out of America and weakening it in the long run. So there's all these kind of peripheral aspects going on in the supply chain war. And then that comes back onto Japan, because as Japan increases its ties to India, bringing more Indias into Japan due to the restrictions and being placed on India by America, it kind of places the burden on Japan to deal with India, but Japan really doesn't know how to deal with India except to bring in more Indians and classify them as the best workers ever imagined. But is that going to be the case? We don't know, but that certainly is happening. I think that's going to be it for the supply chain war. So it's all these things that kind of affect Japan, but because of the nature of the supply chain, like I said at the beginning, that the semiconductor manufacturing industry are these points like a lace scattered all over the world, and Japan is in there because they have the photoresists used to present transistor patterns, and those are produced by Japanese firms like JSR and Tokyo Kogyo, like I said, but it's just one stop in this very loosely connected but super important chain. And as China develops its own chips domestically, they're going to try to use that and push that onto the rest of the world through their BRICS alliances, which are being pushed away from the United States. Die for the war, everybody moves. Die for the good, die for the war, die for the war. And I would add by the United States and thus as well Japan, to bring it back to the Japan Wut Podcast. All right, let's take a look at Japan Society 5.0.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom. Society 5.0. A technology-based, human-centered society. The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face. It will, for example, free us from the stress of driving, allowing us to safely visit anyone, anytime. We will have access to the latest medical advancements at a low cost, no matter where we are.
Obviously.
AI and robots will enhance human ability and expand our infinite possibilities, helping us enjoy more fulfilling lives. Society 5.0. For the betterment of human lives.
So that's the Japanese government's jingle for Japan Society 5.0. And it factors into the supply chain war. And all of these things, it's all becoming one. I started this podcast over 5 years ago. And it started off as like a cultural thing. And I included some AI, and everyone thought I was crazy. And then everything became AI. And nobody ever says, "Oh, sorry for calling you crazy." They just talk to me about AI as if they never said it was crazy and that it's the thing that they know about. So let's take a look here. We're going to take a look at the jobs that AI is dramatically taking. Service jobs no longer required. Which jobs are most at risk? I think this comes from Statistas by Felix Richter. Service jobs no longer required. Which jobs are most at risk? This is kind of in the U.S., that's where it is, but we also see wherever you have an advanced society, similar things happening. So the top job that's going down right now because of AI and robotics and automation, cashiers. We go to the supermarkets now, just a whole bunch of crappy machines, very bright, very narrow, pushing and pushing and pushing you to push buttons and hit things, push the dirty screens that other people have been pushing. So cashiers are at the top. And the decline in the United States is predicted to be more than 300,000 fewer. That's a lot. General office clerks, that's the next one. Customer service representatives, that's the next one. Chatbots can take care of those. Chatbots can take care of all general office clerks as well. Bookkeeping, accounting, and auditing clerks, those are going to be going down too. That can be done largely with large language models and AI agents. Fast food cooks, that can be done with a robot, a flipper robot. First line supervisors of retail sales workers. You can have an AI camera AI cameras positioned all over the lighting systems of a department store, and they will use facial recognition when you get to your station. They will use facial recognition when you leave your station, and they will tally a whole bunch of actions based on how much you smile to people, based on your body language, based on your posture. That can be all done with AI cameras now. Shipping, receiving, and inventory clerks. That can be done with geofencing and automation. And tellers as well, bank tellers. We all know those have been kind of going down for a while now. When's the last time you even interacted with a bank teller? So these are kind of very, very kind of jobs we don't need. But as we all know, like when I worked at Subway for a few months back and when I was like in my 20s in university, you learn how to make sandwiches real good. And then you work there for a few months and you make 1,000 or a few thousand sandwiches. Now you can make sandwiches, delicious sandwiches for the rest of your life. Now you know how to wrap sandwiches for the rest of your life. So you learn like a life skill really in just a few months. Same thing with cashiers. Like you learn how to pack bags. You learn how to organize things in front of you and you can visualize the organization. You don't need separate boxes like after a while. So you learn all these valuable things as you're generally younger. In my case, and I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm working as an English language assistant cashier now at a posh place in a very posh district of town. But is that going to be gone soon? Likely. Or will I be the only one left because I have a specific skill? I will be the only one to interact with people and tell them why things are the way they are. Because everybody else is just going boop, 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 and hitting a button to then take money and then give them a receipt. Like that can all be done automatically now. But you still need somebody in there to explain things to other people. So these are the, it's like, who needs this work? Well, for lifelong skills, everybody needs this work a little bit when they're younger. Or do they? Or is that just it's just like, I did it, so it's good for me, so you should do it too, young person? Am I being Mr. Old Man here? Old man at the computer? I don't know. So those are the jobs that are going down. Not a lot going on in the AI world for today. I don't know why. I did a lot of research, and it's just the main things that are popping up are more like regulatory stuff. Like, the meeting on AI governance and blah, blah, blah is expected to result in something for a meeting down. So it's all procedural right now. I'm not going to focus too much on it today. U.S. Japan formalized Samurai project arrangement to advance AI safety in unmanned aerial vehicles. And this is coming to us from af.mil, the Air Force. Just so the American Air Force's official website. And this is back in September, but I haven't been doing this podcast for a while, and I thought this was important news for people who listen to the podcast and are interested in defense, AI, markets, and so on. The U.S. Department of War and Japanese Ministry of Defense formalized a project arrangement establishing the Strategic Advancement of Mutual Runtime Assurance Artificial Intelligence, Samurai, initiative. The arrangement outlines a framework for cooperative research and development focused on runtime assurance technology. RTA, runtime assurance technology, provides a mechanism for unmanned aerial vehicles equipped with AI to monitor their own performance and ensure continued safe operation. Results from this cooperative effort are intended to inform future integration of AI-enabled UAVs with next-generation fighter aircraft, improving operational safety, deepening interoperability, and strengthening the capabilities of the U.S.-Japan alliance. So not a lot going on there, but it is kind of ongoing because Japan and the United States recently further integrated each other's self-defense forces on Japan's part and military aspects of chain command deeply into each other. So I'm not sure if Japan just expects itself to, through this operation, receive magical drone technology in the future for its own AI development, because it does not really doing it itself. And that's just what they're kind of hoping for, and that's what they'll get. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at, I think we got one more. I think that's it. Oh, last one. This one is again, it's about JP Morgan, but it's a sign of what's to come. And JP Morgan has offices all over Japan, and wherever they kind of go, it spreads from there. JP Morgan's biometric mandate signals new era of workplace surveillance in finance. This is from biometricupdate.com. When employees begin reporting to JP Morgan Chase's new Manhattan headquarters later this year, they will be required to submit their biometric data to enter the building. The policy, first among major U.S. banks, makes biometric enrollment mandatory. JP Morgan says the system is part of a modern security program designed to protect workers and streamline access, but it has sparked concern over privacy. Earlier drafts of the plan described the system as voluntary, but now it's not. The biometric access requirement is being rolled out alongside a smartphone app by JP Morgan Chase that doubles as a digital ID badge and internal service platform, allowing staff to order meals, navigate the building, or register visitors. According to its listing in the Google Play Store, the app currently claims no data collected. In combination, the app and access system will allow the bank to track who enters the building, when, and potentially how long they stay on each floor, a level of visibility that, while defensible as security modernization, unsettles those wary of the creeping normalization of biometric surveillance in the workplace. Executives have promoted the new headquarters as the most technologically advanced corporate campus in New York, and that it is designed to embody an efficiency and safety. Yet the decision thrust JP Morgan's into uncharted territory. Other large banks have explored biometric technologies, but there's no evidence that there's been mandatory applications. The unanswered questions revolve around governance and accountability. Will JP Morgan publish a formal biometric privacy policy, or are they just going to keep it as is and hidden and change it as they see fit? End of story. So right now, there's a whole bunch of modern skyscrapers being built in Tokyo at an alarming rate. They're going up like weeds, in fact. The COVID crisis, so-called COVID crisis, was an initiative to set this up and roll it out. And so we're also seeing giant skyscrapers being built up in downtown Tokyo, really big ones. And offices like JP Morgan Chase and other leading international banks are moving into them as fast as they can. And they're filling up as fast as they can. But what I was, and I worked in one a while back as well. And I could see the digital creep kind of going in. And I was thinking like, well, if we have all of this paperless technology now and most company documents exist in the cloud and we download to a computer and print them out if necessary, but usually not, we just email each other PDFs. Why do we need major offices going up? And why aren't most companies just like 6 people around a giant computer with their own monitors and they interact with the company via a sort of AI interpreter? That seems to me where it would be going. But these new buildings are going up precisely for the installation of surveillance technology, and that's Japan Society 5.0. They want to have the whole office is basically, I'm using the word lace. I'm reading Ian M. Banks' culture novels right now again. So they have these neural laces, the characters in this fiction series, where the neural lace is basically a digital twin that envelops your brain, and then you can communicate with robotic technology via this neural lace. They can communicate with you too. But basically, these buildings are laced with all of this technology, and they're being built with this expectation for this next wave of technology to be, it's already implemented, to be utilized in the future. And the utilization of artificial intelligence really only works at a profitable scale when it's surveillance based. If it's not surveillance based, it's usually just a wacky ass toy, like a painting or something like that. Or AI music. I want to hear jazz music, boop, and it gives you a jazz song, and you pay like $5 a month for it. But the way to make billions and billions and billions, and really the only way that I've seen, is via surveillance. And you can be surveilling things or you can be surveilling people. But if you're not applying it into a surveillance layer, you can kiss the billions of dollars goodbye, essentially is what happens. So all of these major office buildings are now being erected with the lace in place. There's a lace in the building, and it's up to kind of these new corporate overlords to decide how they can farm their money out to startup companies to really maximize the amount of surveillance and control on their employees, and then hopefully watch billions in dollars pour out of this investment via those actions. We don't know if that's going to be successful or not, or if they're just doing it because, hell, why not? What else are we going to do with this new technology? I mean, if it gets rid of the stupid paper as it has, maybe it can do other things as well. We noticed that your temperature is a little high today. Go see the doctor. There might be a thermal camera that looks at everybody's temperatures. Oh, it looks like you're kind of drunk. That's going to be on your on your report. That might affect your bonus. Oh, we noticed that you're coming in later and later. Oh, we noticed that on your phone you're meeting other employees after the office. What are you doing over there? So it's really like a way to just kind of put a geofence and psychologically put everybody into a cage in a way, if that's the way you go. But as a result, if you go along with it, you'll probably have a nice apartment with all this new stuff that you can buy and feel like a productive person in reality while you scroll on your phone all day. So we're not really sure where it's going, but it's going in that way, most certainly. There will be resistance, but it's basically a done deal. After working in retail for the past month or so, I can tell you this. the people who have these podcasts are saying the people are finally waking up. They're waking up and they're going to strike back. I can tell you they're not. Most people are just like, woo, we're shopping. Woo, we're on vacation. I'm on my phone all the time on my vacation. Woo, I'm shopping. Woo, I'm on vacation. Woo, I'm on my phone all the time on vacation. Woo, that's all they do. They don't cope. They don't know. They'll never know and they'll never care. So that's that.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence will transform.
So I teased earlier, this is the last episode of the Japan Wut Podcast, and indeed it is. I feel like the podcast has run its course, so I'm killing it. I started this podcast 5 years ago with a dude named Tom Oleski. We were doing like underground music. This is before COVID. This is when life was still normal, and then he left because I didn't really believe in the COVID thing, and I could tell he did, and he was political things as well. If you're a leftist person, you really can't associate anybody who isn't totally leftist, and he's, I guess, pretty leftist. So, but good terms, and I wish him well. He's just a good dude. He's a great dude, actually. And then I took it on my own terms, and I started doing AI markets. And then the supply chain war during COVID, and then it's all blending into one. And I think everybody knows about this stuff more or less now. Like maybe not, like I was saying, the people who are just, I'm shopping and I'm on vacation and I'm on my phone. Maybe not those people, which are most people. But what I mean to say is, I'm done. The podcast has run its course. Now I'm starting another podcast. It's going to have its own thing. I'm setting up the infrastructure right now. But like I said, like the Japan Society 5.0 jingle that I play just now, it's like 10 years old. And a lot of this stuff, we're entering into the next wave. And as these things merge and blend, it's harder and harder to differentiate them. And I also have 3 kids and a job now. So I want to feel like if I continue where I am right now, my mentality is still within the framework of this podcast where I update it once or twice a week or whatever. And so it's done. That's it. It's done. So if you want to follow for the next podcast, it's going to be more or less what I'm trying to do with today's podcast, which is similar to what I've been doing with a lot of podcasts. But it's going to be about Japan, but how things are in Japan and how things are outside of Japan and how those things outside of Japan affect Japan. Or if you're in Japan and you don't know about those things, then you should. So it's kind of like Japan as a loose reference, but this idea of just being like this Japan expert and just I am the Japan guy, like so many people do this in Japan. I'm kind of done. So I'll be able to take a wider perspective. I'll be able to adapt and roll with it as I see fit and do it as I see fit. So stay tuned for that. So follow me on Twitter, or X as it's called. And that's my handle is the @mark, capital M, capital R, capital B, IGELOW. That's MR Bigelow. Help me get some followers there. Also share this last podcast. Say it's the last podcast for the Japan Wut Podcast. Give it a listen. Do it now. And I think that's going to be about it. So some people have been listening for years. There's always new people coming and going. But to everybody, I say thank you. And with a very heartful and warmful, I bid thee a ja. Mata. Ne.